There's a lot of it over here. Welcome to another episode. This one is going to be in English because there are a lot of SPEEDUINO users around the world and they need to know about this and how to solve the noise problem. Now when I say noise, what do I mean? Just watch the ignition and injector LEDs. See, the engine is not cranking, still the ignition and the injector LEDs are still firing. So I want to fix that issue. It will keep on going until unless I don't cut the power off. Noise is EMI and RFI frequencies that make your ECU fire randomly. EMI means electromagnetic interference and RFI means radio frequency interference. Now let's understand how I got to the core of this noise problem and rectified it a little bit. So first what I did is I disconnected all the injectors and I just connected the ignition coils. Now whenever I kept the ignition coil connected, the ECU would fire randomly and it would keep on firing even if the engine is not cranking. So even without the cam signal, which is over here, that is a VR sensor, without the VR sensor getting any signals, the ECU was still firing. That is because the VR conditioner on our SPEEDUINO is really sensitive. I will demonstrate that later. Then what I did is I disconnected this ignition coil and just kept this one connected, and then I discovered that the noise wasn't much of an issue if this ignition coil was connected. So that means that it is just the distance over here which is making which is giving a false signal to the ECU, because this ignition coil is producing a very strong spark. So maybe it is generating electromagnetic frequency which the ECU is catching. Then what I did is I disconnected both the ignition coils and I connected all the injectors, and the same thing happened. The injector also produced a magnetic field that the VR sensor was catching, and it was giving false signals to the ECU. So I understood that all the noise is being created majorly over here. So what I did is I have these are ferrite beads or ferrite cores. So with all the injectors I connected ferrite beads, and I did the same with the ignition coils. So the negative and the positive feed has ferrite cores connected to it. What I also did is I connected capacitor. So all the injectors and all the both the ignition coils have capacitors connected to it. So I've used this is 224 capacitor. This is a ceramic capacitor that I'm using, and I did the same with the leads that are coming out of the VR sensor. So there is ferrite beads connected, and there is a capacitor that is connected as well. Moreover, because I was really frustrated with the noise problem, so what I did is I changed all the wiring. So initially the wiring wasn't like this. I was using normal wires, but now these are shielded cables. So I'm using shielded cables on the ignition coil. I'm also using shielded cables on the injectors, shielded cable, or there are shielded cable from the VR sensor. So it's all shielded. I don't think you need shielded cables for the injectors and the ignition coil, but for your VR sensor or whatever sensor that you're using to pick up signals, that feed has to be shielded. In future, I'm gonna plug in a hall sensor just to reduce all the noise, so that will come later. What else I did is, because I was speculating that maybe it's also the alternator that is giving out noise, so I also connected a capacitor to the alternator. This is a film type capacitor. This is an electrolyte capacitor, so I'm using two types of capacitor just to damp the noise. Now let's go inside. I'll just show you. Second thing is, you have to have a good wiring. I know my wiring is really messy, because I'm just pulling out cables from everywhere, and I will clean this out because the car has to be turboed and everything, so this will be fixed. So make sure your wiring is really good. The major the most annoying problem is the connection dropout to your laptop. Now I used 3 different types of cables. So I tried using a short one, then this is a medium length. All are shielded, but still I was having dropout problems, and it's really annoying because you're trying to punch in the data, you're trying to tune the car, but the data keeps on changing. You don't know what the car wants. You are trying your best to fine-tune it, but it just won't run properly. So that happened because there is a lot of noise over here. Now we will I will show you how to detect noise. So what was happening is, because of the noise, there was a connection dropout, and maybe the ECU was getting some random information where it was changing the spark timings and the fuel that needs to go. Moreover, it was impossible to tune the ECU live. So usually what happens is, on Tuner Studio, when you change something, when you change something while the car is running, while the engine is running, the ECU is supposed to make those changes live. So if you say, if you do a change with fuel or spark, it's supposed to reflect then and there. But because of the noise, if I made a change, the engine would just stop, and it would drop the connection. So I would have to restart the Tuner Studio and establish the connection all over again. So it wouldn't even detect. The ECU would just shut down. It would reset, and the connection to the laptop would just disappear. So to reduce that connection noise, what I did is, I connected a big ferrite core on the cable that goes to the laptop. Now this problem is more prominent with Arduino based or any USB based communication. That is because usually we have OBD2 ports with the ECU that you run on our normal card, and it has a CAN bus system. It has a bus communication system which runs at about 2.5 volts. So there has to be a difference of about 2.5 volts, and that's the communication that would go through. So electromagnetic waves are not so strong to pick up that, so it's safe that ways. Mega Squad and other aftermarket ECUs usually use serial port. The serial port uses 5 volt digital signal, so that is around 5 volt on and off, so that also doesn't get disturbed. Now what happens with USB is USB uses a 200 millivolt digital signal. A 200 millivolt is a very small voltage difference, and you know that is being manipulated by all the electromagnetic waves and the radio frequencies that are generated in the car. To reduce, you know, the radiation, I've also connected a capacitor through the battery leads. What this has done is, actually when the car is running, the alternator charges at about 14 volts, but because of this, maybe, you know, it's because of this, the voltage is dropped to about 13. And I've also connected ferrite beads to the power terminal that powers the ECU. So as I said, you know, there is more radiation around here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you. So there is an app. This is the app. This is a really nice app. It will measure the, see, there is no noise over here, right? So you can measure how much noise there is through this app. So far there is nothing. You can see, okay, this is a free version, so that's why it's keep on shutting off. So you can see it's, you know, it's constant. There is not a lot of noise. Now I'm going to start the car and show you what I mean. Now I tested this app. You can do the same, you know, it's for free. You can download it and take it near to your microwave, because microwaves also has those electromagnetic frequencies, so you will detect that frequency on the app, you know, when you take your mobile phone close to the microwave. Another blunder that I did is, you know, keeping the battery very close to the ECU. So usually, you know, the battery is in the front, the ECU is in the car, that way it is protected. I tried, you know, shielding this as well, like I put aluminum all around it, but it didn't work. So what I have done is I have made this sheet that's aluminum in polythene bag. So I'm just going to cover this area because there is a lot of noise over here. It's like a rock concert going on over here. That being said, I'm just going to run the car. The car now runs really nice, you know, the engine runs really smooth, and most of the time I can tune it live, but sometimes it does happen that the connection would drop out. That's why I've made the sheet. Still have to test it. Now let's just start the car and show you what I mean by the noise. Okay, see, the car is idling really nice. This wouldn't have been possible. Let's measure the noise. Okay, I hope you can see this. Let me just increase the brightness. Right, now check this out. Oh God. Yeah, sorry about that. This is the free version. Now it's, see, that's the noise. There is a lot of it over here. Now we're just gonna go out and see the same thing. Check it out. Okay. noise over here. The needle is pointing all the way. So here also there is a lot of noise. Same thing over here. The ignition coil. Now I've connected the ECU to the laptop. We're powering the ECU through the laptop cable only. We're not giving it the battery 12 volt. So just see, these are the feeds that are coming from the VR sensor. Now I'm just gonna see what I'm doing is I'm just touching and it is sensing the signal, and if I do it fast enough, it will treat it as a RPM signal coming from the engine, and it will start firing. The ECU will start firing. So let me show you. You can see it's running at 135, 68, 120. So it's getting the RPM just by me modulating this. Now to filter the cam signal coming to your ECU through the VR sensor even further, what I did is to connect resistors. So I have 330 kilo ohms resistors on both the feed. So that is one is negative feed and one is the positive feed. So I have connected resistors on both the feeds. I tried with 10 kilo ohms, then I went up to 20, 30, but it wasn't working. The noise was still there. You don't want to go too high because then it will be a weaker signal. You just have to fine-tune it to where the car is running properly. So this one runs perfectly fine at around 330 kilo ohms. So do that if you are running a VR sensor. If you are running a Hall sensor, I don't think so it would be a problem. Noise wouldn't be much of a problem, except for the noise that the Arduino will pick up. So I'm gonna now we're gonna tune some of it. I have to collect some data, so I'll just record some of that. The car is running good. It's idling properly at about 14:1 air-fuel ratio. Let's try to tune it. So I'm gonna make changes to these cells. Let's say we're gonna add more fuel, so I'm just gonna add plus, right? Sorry, I'm just gonna hit the up arrow. It's changing, and you can see the air fuel ratio dropping over here. So you can see now it's at 13:1. So I'm gonna bring it back up. I'm gonna reduce fuel. That's gonna bring the ratio up to say around 14. You keep it around 14. That's it for this one. I'm just gonna tune the car, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.